Good morning, spiritual Ohana. Hope everyone's doing well this morning. One day, my soul just opened up and things started happening, things I can't quite explain. I cried and I cried like never before. I cried the tears of 10,000 mothers. I couldn't even feel anything because I cried till I was numb. One day, my soul just opened up. I felt overwhelming pride. What I was proud of, God only knows. Like the pride of 100,000 fathers basking in the glory of their newborn sons. I was grinning from ear to ear. One day my soul just opened up. I started laughing, and I laughed for what seemed like forever. Wasn't nothing particularly funny going on, but I laughed anyhow. I laughed the joy of 1,000,000 children playing in the mud. I laughed till my sides ached. Oh God, it felt so good. One day my soul just opened up, and there were revelations, annihilations, and resolutions, feelings of doubt and betrayal, vengeance and forgiveness, memories of things I'd seen and done before, of places I'd been, although I didn't know when. There were lives I'd lived, people I'd loved, battles I'd fought, victories I'd won, and wars I'd lost. One day my soul just opened up and outpoured all the things I've been hiding and denying and living through that had just happened moments before. One day, my soul just opened up, and I decided I was good and ready. I was good and ready to surrender my life to God. So with my soul wide open, I sat down, wrote her a note, and told her so. This poem was written by Jamia L. Van Zandt. Aloha again, everyone. I love our theme for the month of May. It's Listen to Your Heart. And our topic for this week is The Seed of the Soul, which was also a book written by Gary Zukav. Some of you may have read it. He defines soul as that part of you that existed before you were born and will exist after we die. It is the highest and most noble part of yourself that you can reach for. Your soul is that part of you that is immortal. This is only one of the many definitions of the soul, and we'll look at some of them today as we start our month off with regrounding and coming back into alignment with our souls, the divine something that resides at the center of our hearts. That's why listening to the heart is so important. You might have heard me say before that the journey from head to heart is one of the longest journeys we take. And believe it or not, I actually measured the distance from my head to my heart, only one of the bizarre things that has taken up my time since I've been sheltering in place. So on my body, from head to heart, is a mere 15 inches. Why does it take such a long time and so many life-changing events to get us to the short distance from our head to our heart? Why does it take a spiritual awakening to jumpstart this journey? Well, most of the time we live in our heads, where we store information and facts and statistics, and this information is valued and not to be discounted, but it's not all we are, and it certainly is not all we can be. Our heads may be the seat of knowledge, but the seat of wisdom is in our heart. Dr. Holmes said, to understand our unity with God is the beginning of wisdom. To realize that we can express our divinity today should be the start of a conscious practice that will gradually conduct us to greater and greater experiences of life. Thus, we will demonstrate that not only an infinite good exists, but that it is now operating in our experience, our consciousness of the indwelling spirit, and the embodiment of all the gifts it brings us the dominion of good. So our job is to nurture this understanding of unity with spirit this is what enables our wisdom to grow and flourish within our hearts. So this journey from head to heart is a valuable and precious journey. And yes, it's sometimes arduous and painful, but it's the journey that leads us to recognize the inner power and presence that is our true nature and inseparable from the divine. And I believe that the coronavirus has actually led many people to consciously take this journey, leading to a spiritual awakening, as we've been blessed with time for reflection, time for prayer, time to reach out to others in love, and time to witness the astonishing and rapid healing of nature, all of which has helped us to live from our hearts, which is the true seat of our soul. Our soul uniquely knows, and it's the core of our being. And again, there are many definitions and perspectives of what the soul is and what it represents. I mean, look at how many ways we can use the word soul. We can eat filet of sole, we can repair the soles of our shoes, and oh yes, we can visit the capital of Korea, Seoul. Okay, this brief pause in sanity was brought to you by none other than my friend Karen Kuster, who is the queen of puns, and came up with all of them instantaneously when I told her, I was talking to her on the phone, and I told her I was in the middle of writing a talk about soul. Here are a few here's a few ways that some of our new thought authors define soul. Deepak Chopra said it's the core of your being. We've heard that before. It's eternal. It doesn't exist in space and time. It is a field of infinite possibilities and infinite creativity. It is your internal reference point with which you should always be in touch. And Minister Devon Franklin had an interesting way of putting it. He said the soul is the spirit. It is the connecting line to God. He said, I believe the soul is where the Holy Spirit resides. I believe that it is literally, you know when you pick up the phone and then you have your 4G network? Well, guess what? It's 5G now. Anyway, the soul is the 4G network right from heaven to me. And the late author Debbie Ford said, to me, the soul is the part of us that never dies. It is who we are at our core. And it carries all the messages and all the lessons that we've learned in the past, and will carry all the lessons and the messages that we will take into the future. And Eckhart Tolle says the soul is your innermost being, the presence that you are beyond form. The consciousness that you are beyond form, that is the soul. That is your essence. And this is from Sufi master Llewellyn Vaughan Lee. He says the soul is a divine part of ourself. It is our divine nature. It is a part of that which is one with God. Everyone has a soul. It is the immortal, internal part of ourselves. It never dies. It belongs to God. Now this is my last one and my favorite one, and this is from Jean Houston, who is a visionary and an author, and she actually wrote the foreword to the latest issue and edition of the Science of Mind text. And she said, again, I believe that the soul is the essence of who and what we are. She said, I personally believe it transcends our leaving this mortal coil, and I think it comes with codes and possibilities. I love that. Codes and possibilities, and the next layers of who and what we may yet be. It's often a pain in the neck because it says, wake up. It's time to wake up. Don't go to sleep. I think it is also the lure of our becoming. That's my favorite phrase in all of these. It is the lure of our becoming. That's what I think the soul is. I think that Jean Houston and Deepak Chopra come the closest to the way our founder, Dr. Holmes, defines soul. And this is unique. He says that it is the creative medium of spirit, the subjective side of life, meaning it's subject to our conscious minds. It's the mirror of the mind, for it reflects the form of thought which are given it. Soul takes the thought of conscious mind and acts upon it. Its nature is subjective. It cannot analyze or reject. It can only carry out the orders given it. He calls the soul of the universe the universal creative medium through which all law and power operate. He also describes the soul as the seat of memory, and that's pretty similar to what Debbie Ford said. In simpler science of mind terms, soul is the part of God that receives the impress of our thoughts and acts upon them to create form. This is kind of a different take on the usual explanation of soul, but it is certainly important and has its place in our science of mind teaching and the understanding of the way the one mind, God, works within us, through us, and as us. You know, as we move through our daily lives, there are countless examples of seemingly separate objects, people, and effects that appear before our own eyes and are experienced through all our other senses. But from a spiritual perspective, this is not the true reality of life itself. Ralph Waldo Emerson, who was a very influential teacher for Dr. Holmes, said it this way in his essay called The Oversoul. He said, "We live in succession, in division, in parts, in particles. Meantime, within man is the soul of the whole, the wise silence, the universal beauty to which every part and particle is equally related, the eternal one. And this deep power in which we exist and whose beatitude is accessible to all of us is not only self-sufficing and perfect in every hour, but the act of seeing and the thing seen, the seer and the spectacle, the subject and the object are one. We see the world piece by piece as the sun, the moon, the animal, the tree, but the whole of which these are, the whole shining parts make up the soul. There's one universal whole, we know that contains all of itself, and there is no separation within this eternal one. So within each of us lies the soul of the whole. So this is a good place to start from, a place of wisdom, a place of understanding our unity with Spirit, God, the eternal one. And as we sit in the stillness and we contemplate this, or we meditate on it, or we experience this, we move to the unified, grounded, and soul-stirring place that taps into the wisdom and the creative process of life itself. Our soul is a reflection of Spirit individualized as us. Ian Van Zandt, who is the mother of the poetry I read earlier, she said, "The soul, I believe, is the fingerprint of God that becomes a physical body." I believe that. It's the fingerprint. It's unique to everybody. Okay, so there once was this woman who was in a coma, and she was thought to be dying. Doctors had pretty well given up on her, keeping her comfortable. Well, within her comatose state, she suddenly had a feeling that she was being taken up to heaven. And sure enough, soon she stood before the judgment seat. "Who are you?" a voice said to her. "I'm the wife of the mayor," she replied. "I did not ask whose wife you are," I'm trying to be the voice of God here, "but who you are." "Well, I'm the mother of 4 children. I did not ask whose mother you were. I asked you, who are you?" "I'm a school teacher." "I did not ask what your profession is. I asked who you are." And so it went. No answer she gave was sufficient. Again, the question was asked, "Who are you?" "I'm a Christian." "I did not ask about your religion. I asked, who are you?" "I'm the person who always went to church every day and always helped the poor and needing." Once again, the voice. "I did not ask you what you did, but who you are." Well, apparently she failed the examination because she was sent back to Earth. And when she recovered from her illness, she spent the rest of her life on a quest to discover who she really was. Well, guess what? Your soul is what and who you really are. And who you really are resides right here within your heart. As Dr. Holmes said, God speaks to the heart through a language of feeling, a feeling which is affirmative. And Thomas Trord was another one of Dr. Holmes's most influential teachers. And you'll see when I read this, it's very much similar to what Dr. Holmes would say. He said it's the power of the human soul to differentiate limitlessly from the infinite that we are apt to overlook. But as we come to realize that the soul itself is a reflection and an image of the infinite spirit, and a clear recognition of the cosmic creative process shows that it cannot be anything else, we find that it must possess the power, and that in fact it is our possession of this power which is the whole reason for being of the creative process. If the human soul did not possess an unlimited power or differentiate from the infinite, then the infinite would not be reflected in it, and consequently the infinite spirit would find no outlet for its conscious recognition of itself as life, love, and beauty, which is what spirit is. As we all come to understand and deepen our understanding that, as Troward said, that our soul itself is a reflection and image of the infinite spirit, we remain grounded in that unlimited power of the creative process, and we're then able to manifest that which we are uniquely destined to bring forth. It's when our soul is properly enthroned in its seat within the heart, and we are consciously aware of this, that we realize that we have dominion over our lives. It is from being in right relationship with our soul that all good flows forth. Gary Zukav suggests, rather than a soul in a body, become a body in a soul. Reach for your soul. Reach even farther. The impulse of creation and power, authentic power, the hourglass point between energy and matter, that is the seat of the soul. What does it mean to touch that place? What does it mean to touch the seat of the soul? From a science of mind perspective, we might say that touching this place means that consciousness and intention act upon energy, which is the infinite potential, the creative medium, the soul. And this action manifests as matter, the body, or physical form. And Gary Zukav later in his book writes, your soul is not a passive or theoretical entity that occupies a space in the vicinity of your chest cavity. It is a positive, purposeful force at the core of your being. It is that part of you that understands the impersonal nature of the energy dynamics in which you are involved, that loves without restriction and accepts without judgment. When the energy of the soul is recognized, acknowledged, and valued, it begins to infuse the life of the personality. When the personality comes fully to serve the energy of the soul, this is authentic empowerment. So the goal of the evolutionary process in which we are involved and the reason for our being is to do that, is to align the personality and the soul. And every experience we have and will have on earth encourages the alignment of our personality with our souls. Every circumstance, every situation gives us the opportunity to choose this path, to allow your soul to shine through you, to bring the physical world through you, its unending and unfathomable reverence for and love of life. Again, authentic empowerment lies in the alignment of the personality with the soul. There's an inner divine urge within all of us, a purposefulness of spirit that resides in each of us at all times, and it is that which we call our soul. As we ground ourselves in our awareness of the unity of spirit and recognize the limitless power within, our soul awakens to its full potentiality and becomes an outward reflection of spirit, God, and life itself. Harriet Hawkins is a fellow colleague, and she is the spiritual leader of the Livermore, California Center for Spiritual Living. And when we were discussing this back and forth on our minister's listserv this week, she wrote these words, and I thought they were profound. She said, "Soul is the spirit descending into the depths of the human experience. Our spiritual intent is to lift ourselves up into higher vibrations of freedom, light, and love. When the infinite power of love descends into our hearts, it permeates our being and our human experience with infinite love. Our heart is the place where all dimensions are integrated and married, including the upper and lower chakras, heaven and earth, spirit and soul." And Marianne Williamson said this when asked to define soul. She said, "For me, it's the truth of who we are, the light, the love, which is within us and goes by different names, but it's the truth of us." Michelangelo said that when he was ready to start a new statue, he would go to the quarry, he'd pick out a piece of marble, and the way he imagined it, God had already created the statue, and his job was just to get rid of the excess marble. We just had my dog visit. So that's what we're like. Inside is the being that God has already created. Some call it the Christ, the Buddha mind, Shekinah, the light, the soul. And our job is to get rid of the excess marble, the useless fears and thought forms of the world that actually hide the light of the soul. That's what we're here for. We're here to allow that excess marble to fall away and let our inner light shine, revealing the beauty of our soul. And when maybe we won't ever be asked this question, because we really don't believe in Judgment Day. We believe we're loved from start to finish and evolution to evolution. But let's just imagine we were asked this somber question: who are you? We should be able to answer quickly and readily, I am the light of God expressing and individualizing as my perfect soul. I am the light of God expressing and individualizing as my perfect soul. I invite all of you to join me in taking time each day to be still and know. We've been given the gift of time right now, time to listen to our hearts and affirm our unity with Spirit. Know with me that the unique fingerprint of your own soul is the power and presence of life itself, and it knows